Hey folks, welcome to, I guess what, if you're not a long-term viewer of the channel, sort of New Year state of the channel. I just wanted to, sort of go over how things went in 2019 for the channel and beyond the Scanlines series, talk about some of the plans and tweaks that are coming forward for the new year and some other goals that I've got. So, I think with that, before we really get there, I hope you all had a great holiday or having. I'm doing this just after New Year, so there's still a few days I have off before I go back to the day job. And so really I've been just enjoying the downtime, really just playing a bunch of games, and this is some stuff that I'm going to talk about a bit later. But yeah, in terms of present-y stuff, I didn't get much retro stuff. I mean, I sort of got myself a Harmony cartridge for my Atari 2600. I've been really wanting to get that up and running properly, so I'm actually looking to get it modified in due course, and that might hopefully mean some plans for that. But really enough of that, I really want to sort of talk about the big things for the channel. So one of those things for me was over 2018, so bit of back history of course. I had a lot of good growth as you kind of expect for a small channel up until 2018, where it basically flatlined. 2019, one of the things that surprised me is that going into the year and when I was doing the changes, and launching Scanlines, I expected the channel's performance to drop significantly. I was going to be putting out half the number of videos, so I expected it to reflect that. Surprisingly, it didn't. Now, what that makes me think is, it makes me think that there's a barrier placed on just getting my stuff out there, because if half the content roughly kept the same traffic, it means that it felt like this artificial barrier in place, preventing me from growing. Whilst I don't expect, I don't have lofty aspirations for the channel to be a full-time pursuit, I do want to feel like I'm going somewhere with it. So I that's something I kind of want to work on, is can I bust beyond that and still have a nice little crowd of viewers. Best performing really was the surprise that it was Ultra Core. I'm not surprised that happened. That one just really took off in a way that nothing else did. And I imagine it's because they're, a 20-year-old game being restored and brought out, initially through the Mega SG and then the secondary cartridge releases, and some of the things that brings with it. Pro tip: please don't ask for wares on a game that is actually sold. It's one thing for out of print titles or stuff that's abandoned, but for stuff that's commercially available, please don't. That's the kind of thing I don't want in the community of the channel, and I spent a lot of time deleting comments really on that video as a result. Something else that did really well was the two-parter look at the entries in the RGCD 2019 16K compo. Again, I'm not surprised by that. That was a very topical video. And I really enjoyed looking at all those games. Now, I don't know whether splitting it up was a good move or not. I did that specifically for my workload, so I could at least have half of it out the door and then the other half out a little later, like the following week. I don't know whether that was a good plan or not. That's something I kind of wouldn't mind some feedback on. One of the interesting patterns I noticed was that between the spread of minutes watched per overall, it was tighter. So it wasn't as high as last year with things like Sam's Journey or some of the lingering stuff from Luftrausers. But the lowest video in my top 10, I would throw some numbers up, but honestly there was a whole bunch. YouTube's doing a whole bunch of things where there's a bunch of bad data, so my numbers aren't fully accurate, which I'm a bit bummed out by. But the spread was a lot closer, which to me means the audience may not be growing, but more of it's being watched. So that does to me show that Beyond the Scanlines is a much better format and it's working better, which generally makes me much happier. It's something I enjoy doing a lot more, and I think that's really what it's about for me, is that I'm enjoying making these videos, I'm enjoying exploring these games in a little more of an interesting light. And I'm very excited to continue to do it in 2020. there are going to be a few minor tweaks. Really scheduling, it's not that big a schedule change, but it's a minor one that's really going up. So basically, as is the case, Beyond the Scanlines will have 2 episodes a month, the 2nd and 4th Saturdays. That's going to go up evening time for me in Australia, which is like early morning in Europe and the US. That works for me, particularly because I like the idea of being able to respond to the really early comments before I go to bed. Then I can get up and do the rest more. That's sort of a rhythm I like. And it also means that I have Saturdays to finish off a video in case my day job or other things interfere with me getting an episode done for that week. That's the plan. Now, the one tweak is in January and December. One of the things is that the limitation of the schedule, of the original schedule, means that I didn't really have time to just chill. I actually was going to work on a 25th episode for the year, but some plans fell through. Like, I was going to finish off the first week of my holiday break because it would have gone up on the 28th of December. Some stuff fell through on that, and what I felt was that it sort of led me to sit down and reevaluate where things are and what I want to be doing, and the fact that, I actually want to make more time for myself and enjoy gaming. I really only finished like 4 or 5 games all up this year because I'd spent a lot of time doing stuff around videos and things like that. So I wanted to just have some breathing time for myself. So essentially in January, there's going to be 1 episode on the 4th Saturday. So that's the 25th of January, which is when episode 25 will air. And in December, there'll only be 1 on the 1st Saturday. Those other 2 slots, I'm going to have filler content. Like, I have a video that I'm going to work on for next week. It's just a little roundup thing, which will go for the January. And in December, I'll probably throw something smaller out as well. So at least there'll be videos on those days. They just won't be fully highly produced episodes of Beyond the Scanlines. The other thing I want to do sort of around that is there's a few months in the year, February, May, August, and October, where there are 5 Saturdays. And so as a result, it means that instead of being 2 weeks between like the 2nd episode and the first of the next month, there's 3 weeks. So I'm going to try and put some content in there, and it's going to be smaller off the cuff stuff. I think it might be a good chance to do some experiments and work on some new pieces. Whether that turns into another series altogether, I don't know. They're probably not going to be Scanlines episodes. There'll be something else in their place. I like the idea of, like, now I've sort of gotten into the flow a bit. I want to sort of expand. And for me, as the creator part of me wants to be able to grow as a creator. And so doing different kind of things will help in there. Now, the format is mostly going to stay the same. It's still going to be explorations of interesting games on classic computing and gaming platforms, as I like to use in the intro. But there might be some differences. One of those is I'm thinking about dropping multi-format comparison episodes. I like them because you can see that sort of variance, but what I find is the community response, they seem to be the ones that bring up more of what I consider anti-community kind of things, right? I always find they're the ones where the less civilized discussion is. I want to explore these ports and things, and I kind of feel like even when there's a game where one version is better than the other, but they're all still pretty playable, that it's sort of like it discourages people from wanting to try those versions out. So I'm very much thinking of just continuing to focus on the single game coverage, whether that might be like a single game by itself or maybe as part of a series retrospective. I'm definitely wanting to explore a bit more, and I think that sort of really leads into what I consider Beyond the Scanlines to be. It's a series which focuses on interesting games. Now, that can be a really classic game that introduces some new mechanics or has an interesting story to its development. It can also be a bad game that has something really interesting in what it tried to do and failed. Berks 4 is an interesting example. That's not a bad game per se, but I didn't find myself enjoying it. But what it wanted to do, it did achieve in being very much a throwback to that mid-80s era. I personally would feel I'd rather see mechanics grow. What excites me is seeing new developments on old systems that really push the bounds, both technologically and game design-wise. Look at Xenocrisis, for instance. That really is kind of a game that really feels that in my eyes. Again, Beyond the Scanlines is a series focusing on more than just one machine, more platform, 8-bit. I mean, my heart is still 8-bit home computers. That's still the thing where I think a lot of my knowledge is. But it is a reflection of a hobby, and that a lot of that hobby is looking at games on other systems, learning about things that I didn't grow up with or wasn't really exposed to. We can sort of see some things plugged in here. I think you can see the 2C in the background. I want to continue to explore that stuff, and Beyond the Scanlines is really the way that I do it, making videos, playing these games, writing a few hundred to that couple of thousand words on them. Really is important to me from an exploratory kind of angle. I'm hoping that if things go well, for example, getting the aforementioned 2600 modded, getting a couple of systems repaired. There's been no real MSX content this year because my MSX2 has a bit of a video problem at the moment. I really want to get that fixed. I really want to get my Amiga 1200 sorted as well. I mean, I have an A500 doing duties at the moment, but I really want the 1200 to play some AGA stuff. I'm also I'll continue to add platforms as they come. It really depends on what I find, what interesting stuff I play. We're not about rubbishing bad games. I think that a game that's terrible can get interesting value out of it. It might have some mechanics that it tried to do. Maybe it failed on delivering them. It might have had an interesting story in its development of why it was terrible. Double Dragon is a great example. It was written in a really short time to get binary design out of a pickle. And of course, the famous thing with Double Dragon as it's come to light in recent years is that it was written by a couple of really good 64 coders. It's just that they chose not to put their name on it because they knew it was bad because of the constraints they had. I don't want to rubbish a game like that, but I do want to talk about why it's interesting. I don't think I'd cover Double Dragon. I'm not a big beat 'em up fan, so I couldn't really do good showing it off. But I think that kind of thing is worth doing. There's a lot of toxic stuff in the world right now. We'll get onto some of that later. But I think that creating a space where we can talk about these old games, celebrate them, show the ones that have flown by under the radar, is really important for preservation. It's important to document this stuff, and I have admirable respect for people who've done chronological game-by-game series and without losing their minds. That stuff is just ridiculous amounts of work. I could never do that. I don't have the resources, time, basically. So, it's a series that is based on stuff in my own games collection. I'm in my sort of, not really my games room per se, but sort of my storage room, and I see a lot of stuff that I want to cover and talk about because I don't see it talked about elsewhere. And that's sort of an important thing that's worth talking about, especially timelessness, right? A great game is always going to be great. I think there's a lot of problem where a lot of people identify as retro gamers, and I think that I enjoy playing games, whether they're old, whether they're new. And this is actually one of the things I'm going to work on. I'm planning to do as filler in this January gap. So I'm doing a little thing that's sort of like the games I enjoyed playing in 2019. There are some new games in there, some new games on modern systems, some new games on retro systems, and of course, plenty of games that are new to me that I've really only sat down to play properly last year for the first time. I think that the timelessness of gaming is something we need to celebrate. And we also really need to acknowledge that these things aren't just restrained to, just because this game came out 10 years ago, means it's still worth playing. And I think we have a history problem with games, more so than other medium. You don't see someone who only reads classical literature and eschews everything else. You see people who enjoy classical literature alongside modern stuff. You see the same with music and movies. Why is games so different? That's something I think about a lot. And in terms of bringing things to the masses, I don't know, this is not a mainstream goal. And honestly, my work and Beyond the Scales is not a mainstream kind of series. It's a series that is about this thing. And I know that sells me towards, 40-something dudes, but, I think there are things that harpen that are damaging in the long term. So I guess the last thing I really want to talk about is my goals for 2020. So one of the big ones for me really is around community. I feel a lot sometimes that I'm screaming into the void when I make a video. When I'm putting my work in, I'm writing my script, I'm editing, I'm doing everything, trying to make a respectful look at something interesting. I feel like I'm screaming into the void, and a lot of that happens when I post a video and I stay up for another couple of hours after it's out on a Saturday evening. Then I go to bed and I'll see some stuff. And I don't know, I feel like the kind of thoughts I have about games, because I'm wearing the hat of, I want to make my own. I'm slowly trying to do that alongside my day job and this channel. Though 2019 has been a hard year for some personal stresses on that front. But I feel that a lot of people who do watch my stuff don't really share it at the same level. I could be wrong, but I don't see a lot of other content producers who actively are commenting on stuff while I'm maybe doing it on theirs. I think there's a mismatch in the community somewhat. I think a lot about that. I want to be better part of it. Like, I'm happy to share other people's work, but a lot of time, very rarely the same applies. And I really want to enjoy celebrating, because really at the end of the day, I want to make videos to celebrate interesting games, and I want to celebrate them with like-minded people. And it's kind of like the kind of work I enjoy is seeing that kind of video where someone else is exploring something that I've never heard of or don't really know too much about, and really enjoying learning about the experience. Again, I want to find more peers really around the level I am of this smaller hobbyist kind of thing, and being able to share stuff with them. I think more and more that there's a lot of siloing going on, and it's not helped by the hyper specialization that YouTube wants to put on people. One of the things they say is you should specialize to an incredibly small niche. I don't want to, because if I were to do that, that would basically mean, I don't know, new homebrew games, probably on the C64, and it's just like, I love seeing what's going on with the C64 scene, but 2019 was a bit flat compared to 2018. 2018 was filled with some amazing works coming out. Yump, Aviator, Sam's Journey getting its physical release, and more. 2019 felt a bit of a letdown. I think 2020 is going to have some interesting games come out, but 2019 didn't. So it's kind of why, as it stands, I was sort of, that hyper specialization isn't it. For me, this is really about celebrating interesting stuff on the platform, whether it's an 8-bit home computer, a 16-bit one, a console, a handheld system, whatever. I think that celebration is important. And I really want to meet other creators who feel the same. I don't think I talk to many of them. I feel like I'm talking to them more on their videos than on mine. And sort of the other thing is really around, I want to cultivate a community of respect. One of the things that has stuck in my mind through a lot of the latter half of this year is Horror-scape. I think, quite frankly, I don't want to be part of a community where a content producer can be harassed and things not dealt with in a good manner by a firm by the head of a firm creating a replica of a classic home computer, and for people to dismiss it as politics. People shouldn't be hurt over this. I don't think it's okay to do that. I don't want to run a community, and it is a community, sharing work and talking. I don't want to be in a space where people can think it's okay to do that. So, as an aside, I personally, as much as I like the idea of seeing a new version of my favorite home computer in a shop, I'm not buying it, and I'm not covering it here. I'll talk about alternatives till the cows come home. That's actually, again, part of the plan here. But, original hardware or FPGA simulation is really what's more important than a software emulator box made by a firm by someone who's more than happy to harass people instead of going through things in a more respectful light. I want that. I think that we as a community can be better people. And am I a beacon? Probably not, but I want to try and be better. And I think we should all try and be better. And if you're willing to dismiss that stuff off, it's just politics, then I think I would ask you to reconsider and understand the human impact of that. Because if a creator can be harassed and almost want to quit something that makes them happy, that's important to them, then we all lose out. So just think about it. I want to leave it. That's really kind of everything I want to talk about. I'm really excited for the plans for the new season. I'm going to continue to hopefully bring stuff that's interesting, champion interesting releases, show some stuff that doesn't really get talked about, and hopefully, of course, cover new stuff as it comes out that's really cool. I guess there's always the really question of support. If you enjoy what I do, the biggest thing you can do really is just click the thumbs up and let's have some interesting discussion in the comments, right? And be respectful and chill about it. That's the biggest thing you can do. Then sharing the work elsewhere. I can't get to every community elsewhere. I mean, put it this way, I have very little time at home during the evenings, and I can't really get away with posting video links elsewhere during my workday, overseer kind of things. So helping get the word out there is really what helps, right? Helping fight the algorithm and helping get more visibility. This doesn't just apply to me, this applies to any small creator out there these days. We've all got to do it because the platforms don't give a damn. They only care about your big name, cheap, low grade, lowest common denominator content. If you enjoy someone doing something a little more niche, a little more detailed, a little off the beaten track, you've got to be there for them. You can't just watch and say, I like that person's work. Like, I appreciate being told that you like my work, but I'd rather you tell other people that you recommend my work and not tell me that, because then you can help others see it and it helps the channel grow and it helps make our community better. Like, even at the end, at the top end of like the things you can do, yeah, Patreon, it helps me fund repairs, it helps me have something that I can put towards fixing small things, it helps me to be able to support other people in various ways. But it's not important. It means a lot to me that people do. Thank you all so much who do that. But just leaving some cool comments and sharing the stuff around without having to be prodded every time. Self-promotion is naturally hard. And I saw a comment from someone earlier this morning as I'm recording this. It's like that, you know, to get better at it. I want to do the same. Like, I don't want my personal social media feeds to be just about the channel. They're about me. The channel is a facet of me, like my game development stuff, my life and things that I'm involved with. The channel is one of many factors, and I think hyper specializing into that small space is not going to really be a good thing. So to leave it there, again, thank you all so much for your support. Whether you have just been someone who's posted a bunch of insightful stuff on videos, if you're enjoying them, cool. You know, if you've been sharing them around, if you've been doing stuff, let's make 2020 a really good year for everyone. So have a think about it, contribute, enjoy the stuff, and the next Scanlines is going to be January 25th. I'm going to have something else between there, but for that, thank you all very much for watching.